Nguyễn Hùng của BBC Tiếng Việt xin kính chào quý vị khán giả. Hôm nay tôi đang có mặt ở nhà của Đại úy James Văn Thạch, người đã từng phục vụ ở Iraq rồi Afghanistan, gần đây thăm Việt Nam. Anh đã bị thương khi phục vụ ở Iraq và có cô chó tên là Liz để giúp anh đi lại. Và ngồi bên tay phải tôi là Trung tá Jim. Trung tá Jim thì cũng đã từng phục vụ ở trong quân ngũ ở Việt Nam hồi chiến tranh Việt Nam. Trước hết là xin bắt đầu với đại úy có lẽ là tôi bắt đầu với trung tá trước. Okay, Jim, could I ask you a question about your reflection of the Vietnam War now and what you thought about that war 40 years ago?
Oh, okay. Now let's see. 40 years ago. Okay. Okay. Now I didn't feel like it came out like we really wanted it to, but while I was in Vietnam, I met a lot of friends. I had a lot of friends there, a lot of people that I met and enjoyed, and I still have people there that I know, and I feel like the fighters, the war, the Americans, the Vietnamese, and others around there did a very good job. But I think the politicians kind of messed up the whole thing at the end, and we didn't give them what we promised we were going to give them to help them out do the war. So I was kind of upset about that personally myself because I had so many people there that I knew and enjoyed. That's kind of the reflection that I have from that at this time. Okay.
Do you still remember any major battles that you participated in?
Well, not really any major battles. I was kind of ongoing every day. I work with rural development cadre quite a bit, and I also work with the 5th Urban Division. And I was out on Highway 13. It was an everyday thing for us. Road mines and all every day, and rockets coming in every night, and it was just on and on. But
how did that experience in Vietnam shape your life in general?
Well, it gave me appreciation for being in the United States, being someplace where I could feel safe and be have security, and it made me feel sad for other people that didn't have the security that I had, and hopefully, I was hoping that I was helping the people there, and that's about.
Have you been back since?
Yes, I've been back many times since. I go into Saigon, basically into District 1, and I always go to the playgrounds, the parks, and I sit and talk to the students, the college students in English. They like to speak English so they could learn the language, and I figure that helps them by being able to speak English and learn the language there. And I always go and sometimes I spend as much as 4 or 5 hours a day out just sitting in the park talking to students in English. And I do that quite often when I go there. I've been there probably about 4 or 5 times since.
And are you happy with the way Vietnam and the United States are normalizing relationship and getting better relationship?
I'm very happy about getting better relationships because I had to wait a long time to go back the first time, and I was glad that I could go back and visit and see some of the places where I'd been before, and the improvements that I see. The place is much cleaner around there in Saigon and all that, and the roads are much better, and the interstate highways and all. It's gorgeous now compared to what it was. It was war-torn. It was pretty bad, but now they're building up, and I see a lot of improvement, and it looks like a much better future for the younger people coming along. And the education program that I see there, it looks much better than it was.
Great, thank you. And What about you, Captain? How did you grow up? How did you grow up here in the States, and you know how the Vietnam War, if anything, affected the choices you made?
Yes, for me, after 1979, my mother's family started coming into the States, and my cousin, a girl and a boy, and then my mom's cousin, my uncle came in, and then later on my mother's cousins came in from California. And for me as a young child to ask questions, well, why are they coming here? Well, where are they from? And asking the questions and wondering why that my mother couldn't take me to Vietnam to go visit her parents, my grandparents. And it affected me a lot because I wanted to, as a young child, I wanted to ask questions and know why. And the first time I went to Vietnam was in 1985 with my mother. And at that time, we landed into Tan Son Nhut Airport. But at that time, at Tan Son Nhut, you had to take a bus from Tan Son Nhut to go to District 1 to Cha Ben Tan. And from Cha Ben Tan, from the bus stop, then I took a sit-low with my mother, and we went to Cha Camuy. And that's where my mom's sister, number 2, lives, Yi Hai. And from there, we went down to Metaw, where my Ong Wai lives there. And to see the poverty at that time in 1985 to what I was used to at 5 years old, 6 years old or so, it was a big shock to me. And it also puts perspective onto me in how I should much appreciate the life I have in the States and how I should have more compassion because now I have knowledge firsthand, face to face, what the people are suffering at that time in Vietnam.
And then when you went back here, and then you went to school, and what made you go into the army?
Well, for me, my family has a long service in the military. On my mom's side, her father I'm from the city of Truyen, and at that time it was a part of French Indochina. So my grandfather and his best friend, who's married to his wife's sister, served in the Indochina army and fought against the Viet Minh. Also, my mom's cousins later on served in the South Vietnamese military and police of South Vietnam. And on my father, he served in World War II, in the Korean War, and also during the Vietnam War. So having that influence on me, as well as the strict discipline of my father, who was also a New York City police officer, instilled with me great patriotism and to understanding that the quality of life that we have in this country, and that this country accepted about 80 family members of my mom to come from Vietnam. It was my choice to give back and to let this country know that I thank and appreciate them, because if this country has not, my family members on my mom's side would not have the same opportunities if they didn't come to the United States.
So that obviously there is no conscription now like when it was in Vietnam War, right? So it was your own choice.
Yes.
To go into the army and then went into Iraq.
Correct, yes. I strictly volunteered. Since I volunteered and I had good grades, the Army did award me a scholarship for college. So I received at first a 3-year scholarship, and that nullified my enlistment in the reserves, and I became a contracted cadet. And once I graduated college in 1998, I requested from the Army if I can go to law school. So after law school, I graduated and I had the opportunity to go to JAG, which is a lawyer in the Army, but I decided not to. I wanted to go into combat because about 7 months prior, September 11th had occurred. And that's when the terrorists attacked the United States. and I felt that I wanted to go into combat to help protect the United States, because if I went as a JAG officer, I would not be able to go in combat unless I had prior special operations or ranger qualified to go into combat.
Great. I will ask you more about your experience in Iraq later, but first I would like to ask Jim how you compare the war in Vietnam and the war in Iraq, because people they have been comparing the two wars, and they say this is the new Vietnam War, the Iraq War. So what's your view?
I look at it as some of the same things are going on, and I just think we should learn more from Vietnam, because it looks like to me that some of the same things are going on. Some of the same mistakes are being made, I believe.
So the politicians, they are still making the same mistakes.
The politicians, the political people.
But should that affect people's choices, like Captain James decided to go into the army and serve in Iraq? So was it a good choice?
Oh, for him, yeah, I think it's a very good choice for youngsters to pay back, and I'd like to see more young people, because the military discipline is really improved, and I believe that if we had more people, more youngsters going to the army, we'd have less crime. And
so now turning to Captain, you served in Iraq for how long?
I served in Iraq for a little under 25 months. So basically 2 years.
And then you were wounded twice, right?
Yes, I was wounded first in June 2006 when my vehicle ran over an IED, which is basically a booby trap, a bomb that's buried underneath the ground. And the second time I was wounded when I was on an Iraqi army military base, and a rocket exploded about 20 meters away from me. And when it exploded, my body was picked up by the bomb blast and thrown to the ground, and that's when I suffered some more severe injuries to my brain, a traumatic brain injury, injury to my left eye. I suffer blurred vision, and I suffer injury to my neck and my back and my left leg.
So that's why you need to have Liz to be a friend and guide you, right?
Yes, for sure. Yes, she guides me, and also she can pick up items off the floor for me, and she can turn on and off the lights.
Wow, great.
Yes.
And you told me that it costs more than $50,000?
Yes, for when she's born as a puppy and until she's raised, and then she goes into advanced training for schooling. Before I receive her, the total cost of one of these service dogs from Canine Companions for Independence is $55,000.
And about your experience in Iraq, if you could share it with people who have never been there, so what it's like to be in Iraq, and what you saw, and how people in Iraq reacted to you and to other servicemen and women there.
Yes. For me, when I went to Iraq, I was a military advisor to the Iraqi army. I served as an infantry officer. So I was a S3, which is operations advisor. And my experience, I was working every day with Iraqi security forces in training, in mentorship, planning, and also going on in operations with them to locate terrorists, to apprehend them, and if necessary, if they did not want to be captured, we would have to kill them. So it was a good experience, as well as we did humanitarian work in Iraq. We visited mosques, we visited Christian and Catholic churches, and we provided medical aid, as well as humanitarian aid, as in blankets, books, or gifts for the children. So it was not all about just going and finding terrorists and arresting them or killing them. It was also as well as providing services for the Iraqi people in humanitarian work, and also in health issues that they were having.
And what about Jim? When you learned that Captain James decided to go into the army, what you thought at that time, and did you actually give any advice to Captain?
I was very proud of him, and my advice was him to do the best he could. And that's what I advise all the youngsters to do. Do the best you can.
And did you advise on how to stay out of troubles, or how to?
Not really on how to stay out of troubles. He had to pick it up on his own. But he got a lot of good Army training and all that.
Did you compare experiences, like when you were in Vietnam and then when Captain was in Iraq? Did you actually talk to each other about the two different worlds, but then they have common themes and common tactics?
After he came back from Iraq, yes, and then I talked to, because some of the same stuff he was doing, I was doing. I was also an advisory. I was in an advisory group. I started out with the Army Battalion with military activities, and then after that I went into Rural Development Cadre. I don't know, are you familiar with Rural Development Cadre?
No.
Okay, those are guys that wore black uniforms and had a little patch on here, and they served in the villages and hamlets and worked with the people, and we did almost everything. I've done road work, built maternity hospitals and all this with my counterparts. Road lines of communications, all that type of activity, everything to do. Fisheries, was it, and just all kind of schools and stuff like that.
And you both have been back to Vietnam, and how do you think of the progress Vietnam has been making?
I think from what I've seen, it's outstanding from where I was before, because everything was so poor, so dirty, and the effect of the war was crumbling, and all that stuff. And I think I was going over now, and it's beautiful. They have beautiful parks and gardens, and the roadways are gorgeous. When I was there, the main highways were just dirt. Now they got interstates, beautiful. They got roadside rest areas. I went to one roadside rest area when I was there this time. It's so gorgeous. It had flowers and had a restaurant in it, and it was just fantastic.
Some people, they still have the nostalgia about Saigon. Did you actually see Saigon grow into a bigger, more affluent, more beautiful city?
Much more. And then now they're expanding considerably. I've seen a lot of hotels go up and a lot of businesses there. When I was there, all the military activity, but now, where they had one large military base there, they have manufactories. They manufacture batteries and a lot of other things I saw there. So it's real progress, and I think they're coming right along. And I see now, I really like to see the material. They're producing clothing and all. I buy a lot of clothing made in Vietnam now.
Great. And then you just came back, literally. So what's your experience?
For me, when I first went to Vietnam in 1985, until just coming back, recently, I've been to Vietnam back and forth about 20 times during school and also during the military. And the Communist government of Vietnam has done great progress in moving the country forward economically through the capitalist program. But I think more work needs to be done. And I know it takes time, and it's their system. But if the government of Vietnam wants to have more international support and cooperation with the United States and other countries, it has to work with us diplomatically to make great progress for the country, because I believe the children of Vietnam is the future. And I feel that more assistance needs to be provided for the children of Vietnam through health programs, through education, because not everything is perfect in Vietnam, but at least there's not an ongoing war anymore. There's other issues that are going on, and I do hope and I have faith that a better future will occur, because I feel that to help Vietnam, it has to come within. Vietnam is a dragon, And if the dragon is in good health, but may have some symptoms that is not making 100%, that vaccine is the children. And the children have to cure it from within to make the nation, the motherland of Vietnam, the dragon, much more healthier for a better and brighter future.
And when you were there, you also have the experience of meeting former veterans from the Vietnam War in the South. So
Yes.
what do they think of the new Vietnam, and what are they thinking of the progress that the country has been making?
Yes, I met quite a few South Vietnamese veterans, and some of them who are disabled, who are missing limbs, legs, have received some assistance from the Social Welfare Department of Vietnam in handicap assist vehicles, bicycles, which is a good positive. But I have not, when I was talking to them, any animosity towards the current government of Vietnam. But I feel that more needs to be done for them mentally in mental health care, because myself as a veteran that also is a suicide prevention counselor, mental health is very important to help healing for them mentally. I feel that what can be a good program for the veterans right now in South Vietnam, as well as the veterans from Northern Vietnam, is have a truth commission, whereas whatever is bothering them inside, they can talk freely about it on both sides, and then they can mediate for a better future in healing for the future of Vietnam. So I think that the government of Vietnam should look at the program of the Truth Commissions that was done in South Africa and use that as a basis to see how it can work in Vietnam to help heal the country, because there is some wounds that are still there, and that those need to be healed to cure and to help heal Vietnam for a future.
And just one question for
Yes.
each of you before we finish. If there is one thing that you would like Vietnam, the government of Vietnam, to do to realize the full potential of the Vietnamese people over there in Vietnam, as well as the Vietnamese community here, so what should that thing be?
Well, I think they're working on it. I think education is one of the best things that I can see. Educate the young and a health program to help the people. And I think that's probably the two things that really I believe.
What about you, Captain?
For me, looking back, being a history major in college and understanding what happened in Vietnam, the positives and the negatives, I feel that the government of Vietnam, as well as the United States government, using their diplomats, the ambassador, the U.S. ambassador of Vietnam, as utilizing the government of Vietnam to work through better programs to help. Education is a key. Humanitarian work is a key to assist Vietnam. And if there are issues, such as human rights issues, that Vietnam can look at the United States or other countries and see how they can incorporate different things to help Vietnam for a better future, as well as that will provide a good instinct for the Vietnamese people to know that, yes, our government has the best interest for us.
Great. Thank you both very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, An.